Like the Toyota Land Cruiser and the Land Rover Defender, the Suzuki Jimny is one of the great legends of Australian four-wheel driving history. And we've got an all-new one in 2019. There's a lot of new things going on here, a new look, new interior, new driveline, but this thing should keep true to its roots of being a very capable and a very fun off-road vehicle. We're in the four-wheel driving mecca known as the Victorian High Country. Only a few hours away from Melbourne, it's a huge area of high altitude wilderness with countless four-wheel drive tracks waiting to be explored. There are tough rutted climbs, river crossings, muddy sections and rock steps to negotiate, along with incredible views, history and unspoiled nature. We kicked our journey off at Dargo, camping one night at the picturesque old mining town known as Talbotville on the banks of the Crooked River. From there, we're headed to the well-known and jaw-dropping track known as Blue Rag. It's got some of the best views you'll ever see through the windscreen of a four-wheel drive. The Jimny's 1.5 litre petrol engine makes 75 kilowatts at 6,000 RPM and 130 Newton meters at 4,000 RPM. We've got the 5-speed manual option here, but you can also get a 4-speed automatic. The old 1.3 litre motor's gone. It's replaced with a 1.5. It's not exactly hugely powerful, but it doesn't really need to be either. Obviously this thing's not going to be great on the highway, but off-road, this thing is quite good. I really like the fact that this air filter is easily accessed, 2 clips, and also this air intake. It's designed well to stop water getting in easily. Really good for when you're going through rivers and such. A lot does stay the same with this Jimny at the same time. It is kind of the same recipe overall. It's small, lightweight and nimble, and there's coil sprung radius arm suspension on both ends. There's a low range transfer case as well, but this new one does have Suzuki's all grip mode, which is an off-road traction control. We'll give that a good test on some tracks and see how well tuned it is. Let's get the bad things out of the way first about this Jimny. It's a 3-star ANCAP safety rating, so it's not the safest car in the world. It's not the most refined either, and obviously with the size of it, you can't really fit much stuff in. There's room for a driver and 3 passengers, or a bit of camping gear in the back. With that out of the way, there is a lot to really love about this car. It's got this sense of excitement about it. It's an enthusiast car. You want to get in it and drive it, take it off-road, go exploring places. Could you live with it on a day-to-day basis, driving to and from work? I reckon absolutely you could. It's not as refined, it's not as safe, and it's probably not as efficient as other vehicles in this price range and in this size, obviously. Think about more traditional, more normal, small SUVs. But none of those things can come within a bull's roar of this thing off-road. It is properly capable, and I'm really keen to see how capable it actually is. I've come to the high country and I've picked out some pretty hard tracks. It's going to put this thing to the real test. Let's go have a look. There are plenty of options for getting to Blue Rag from Talbotville, but we're taking one of the most challenging ones. It's called South Basalt and climbs up from the rivers to a mountain saddle at around 1,500 metres above sea level. The first part of the climb is really challenging stuff, and not for those without a bit of skill or experience under their belt. It's a great track to really test out a vehicle's capability. Along with sheer steepness, there are big ruts and soft and low traction surfaces, as well as sharp switchbacks and rock steps. We're just at the start of the South Basalt knob track in the high country. I'm just looking at my map here, and you can see that just before we were crossing rivers right down to the bottom of the valley, but this is where it gets really steep. You can sort of see the lines on the map. This is a very steep climb for probably a few hundred meters, so it will be probably quite challenging. Gets up towards a helipad at the top there. So this will be a really good test for these vehicles. The wheels of the Jimny are right at each corner of the vehicle, and that gives you great ground clearance and visibility, as well as confidence in choosing your line. But perhaps the best thing about this Jimny off-road is just the enjoyment and the engagement that you get out of it. It's a true enthusiast vehicle at a pretty sharp price of under $25,000. Pretty good challenge that first bit. You could see the wheels spinning as this thing started to articulate. The traction control did kick in pretty quickly though, so you didn't lose a lot of momentum. That means this thing's tuned pretty well, which is a great start. No locking dips, but that kind of does make up for a lot of it. Not sure what it's like further on though, so we'll see what we're in for. Ran out of traction here. This place would be really challenging in the wet, but in this really dry, powdery stuff, I'm actually running out of traction here a little bit, and the wheels were just starting to spin. So rather than sitting there spinning your wheels, you need to stop, back up, have a look at the track, see what's going on. We've got some other options up the side here. It's very rocky though, so I might just try and adjust my line a little bit, pick something a bit different, adjust your momentum, and just play around and see if you can just crawl up nice and easy. While the Jimny doesn't have the size or raw clearance that other larger four-wheel drives have, don't think for a second that this thing is not capable off-road. We had a Holden Trailblazer on this track as well, and while it did make it up, the thing was bottoming out quite a bit where the Jimny did not. Its size and weight, combined with the good off-road suspension and sharp traction control, makes it very impressive on tricky, technical tracks. After making it up that tough climb, we were able to travel north and link up with the famous Blue Rag Range track. This isn't an overly challenging climb, but it is steep in some sections, and the view. Have a look at that view. Being above the tree line here is incredible, and it makes this track one that any four-wheel driver would want to tick off their bucket list. The subpar safety rating is very disappointing, and that makes the only major issue that comes in the way of recommending this thing outright. If you can justify looking past that, along with the more traditional drive and feel of the Jimny, you'll have something of a modern classic. This Jimny is properly capable off-road, and it comes with character that is practically unheard of these days.